Today, we're going to dig into the story of one of the most important, but also one of the most mysterious figures in Indian history, Chandragupta I. This is the man who founded the great Gupta Empire. He's the architect of a golden age. But his story, well, it's something we have to piece together from just a few fragments of history. So, you hear that title, Great King of Kings, and you have to wonder, who was he, really? How does a ruler from a pretty minor dynasty climb all the way to the top and become an emperor whose legacy would shape India for centuries to come? Okay, let's dive in and follow the clues that historians have used to reconstruct his incredible story. All right, so our first major clue is all about the grand title he gave himself. And this wasn't just some fancy new name. It was a huge statement of ambition and power that completely set him apart from everyone who came before him in his family. Just look at this contrast right here. His father, his grandfather, they were known as Maharaja, which means great king. Totally respectable, for sure. But Chandragupta, he took this giant leap, calling himself Maharajadiraja, the great king of kings. Now, this wasn't just a small upgrade. It was a seismic shift, a declaration of a whole new level of power. And that title, it tells us pretty much everything. He wasn't just a king anymore. He was an emperor, a ruler who had other monarchs answering to him. This tells us he was the first true sovereign ruler of his dynasty, and by claiming this title, he completely changed the game. So, of course, this leads to the big question. How did he do it? What was the secret sauce for this massive leap in power and prestige? Well, the answer seems to lie in our second major clue, a very, very strategic marriage. One of the most important things he did during his reign was get married. And this wasn't just some personal affair. It was a political masterstroke that seems to be the very foundation of his entire empire. He married a woman named Kumara Devi. She was a princess from the Lichavis. And you have to understand, the Lichavis were an ancient and really powerful clan. This wasn't a minor connection. This was a link to a formidable political force. So why was this marriage such a big deal? Well, for one, it wasn't just about social climbing. In fact, some ancient texts called the Lichavis unorthodox, so this was about something else. The leading theory is that this was a straight-up political alliance. It probably merged the Gupta and Lichavi territories, giving Chandragupta all the resources and, just as important, the legitimacy he needed to expand his rule and claim that big imperial title. And if you want proof, look no further than how they described their own son, the famous conqueror Samudragupta. In official inscriptions, he wasn't just called his father's son. He was proudly called Lichvi Dauhitra, which literally means the Lichvi daughter's son. The fact that they broadcasted his mother's family line so publicly tells you everything you need to know about how vital this alliance was to their power. But we've got more than just words and inscriptions. We have actual, tangible, physical evidence of this power couple. And our third clue is a very special series of gold coins that, honestly, tell a story all on their own. These coins are just incredible. On one side, you see Chandragupta and Kumara Devi standing together with their names inscribed right there. A joint portrait like this was super unusual for the time. But then you flip it over, and you don't find a Gupta symbol. No. You find a goddess sitting on a lion and the word Lichavaya, the Lichavis. This coin is basically a press release, a public announcement celebrating the union of a king, a queen, and her powerful family. And even here, there's a fun little mystery for us. Scholars still debate who this goddess is. Is it Durga, the warrior goddess? Maybe Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity? Or was she a specific goddess that the Lichavi clan worshipped? We don't know for sure, but her presence, whoever she is, just hammers home the importance of that Lichavi connection. Okay, so we have a title, a marriage, and a coin. But what about the kingdom itself? Like, what land did Chandragupta actually rule over? This is our fourth clue, and it's a tricky one. It's kind of like trying to map a ghost kingdom. So since we don't have any clear maps or records of his borders, historians have to use this really clever method of deduction. They look at the super long list of kingdoms his son, Samudragupta, went out and conquered. The logic is simple. If his son had to go and conquer a place, it probably wasn't already part of the kingdom he inherited from his dad. So using this method, we can start to sketch out the borders by figuring out what was outside them. His empire likely didn't include the far western parts of Uttar Pradesh, or central India, or much of Bengal, or the kingdom of Nepal up in the north. all of those places pop up later as conquests. So when you put all of that together, the picture that emerges is a core kingdom that probably covered all of modern-day Bihar and big chunks of Uttar Pradesh. And crucially, this territory gave him control over ancient centers of power like Magadha and Prayaga. And that brings us to the final act of the founder's story, making sure that the empire he created would not only survive, but actually thrive long after he was gone. The evidence we have suggests that Chandragupta didn't just leave the succession up to chance. No, it seems that in a public declaration in his own court, he personally chose his son, Samudragupta, to take the throne after him. There's an inscription from his son's reign that describes the moment his father chose him to, get this, protect the earth. Just think about that phrase. It points to a stable, peaceful, and really deliberate transfer of power. He was setting the stage perfectly for his son to launch the massive expansion that would become the Gupta Empire's Golden Age. So in the end, Chandragupta I might not have been the great conqueror of the dynasty, but he was maybe something even more important. He was the master strategist. He was the architect who drew up the blueprints and laid this unshakable foundation through his ambition, his powerful alliance, and his foresight. His son would go on to build the magnificent empire, but it was all built on the foundation his father left him. And it just leaves you with this one last thought, right? The story of Chandragupta I is such a powerful reminder of how our understanding of the past is often a mosaic, just carefully pieced together from a few surviving fragments. A title, a marriage, a single type of coin, each one is a tiny clue that helps us rebuild the life of a king who literally changed the course of a subcontinent.